integration literally means trying to find the joint gains, trying to find the right trade-offs, the right answers here. It's not about, I'll give you this today if you give that to me, kind of between your vice presidents, right? It's helping them understand what's the best thing for the business as a whole. Part of it is just really understanding the core trade-offs that are being worked here. So an example in a new product development team would be sort of product functionality versus manufacturability, right? And trying to really kind of make those things mesh so that you hit the right trade-off. The supply-demand trade-offs that I was talking about are another. Innovation and execution, right? To what degree are we going to focus on innovating as opposed to executing brilliantly on what we have today? Financial results on a current basis versus investment for the future, right? So there's certain classic core trade-offs that general managers need to manage, and it's their responsibility. It's not the responsibility of the functional leaders to do that. Well, I think you're most at risk of falling into those traps with regard to the function you come out of. I mean, I refer to this as your function of origin, right? It's kind of like your family of origin, and it influences you in surprisingly deep ways, and that can lead to some subjectivity, right? So you have to guard yourself, to not over-bias towards the direction of the stuff you love, whether it's operations or R&D or sales and marketing. I think that there's a few things that help, right? One is I think you do need to insist on data-driven leadership, for sure. Right? You should always be asking the question, what does the data show? Can we get better information to help us make a good decision here? You also should always be asking what's right from the business as a whole. You should be pushing people on how do we get better, what's the learning curve so that we can do things more effectively. That said, subjectivity is never completely avoidable, right? When you get to the level of enterprise leadership, the decisions you're making involve a level of complexity and uncertainty and ambiguity. The data is never going to give you the right answer, or there may be multiple right answers, right? So in the end, you have to be exercising some judgment, and by definition, that's subjective. The key thing is just being aware of when you're doing that, and also being aware, as we just discussed, about the biases that you're possibly bringing to that discussion. One thing you see with first-time enterprise leaders is they often are somewhat risk-averse, right? And understandably, right? Because, they're trying to learn about complex domains. They're making decisions that are pretty consequential. They don't want to break things right away. This is why typically you need really good advice when you're becoming an enterprise leader. And also thoughtful companies typically will not put you in situations where you necessarily need to make very high-risk decisions quickly. I've been writing recently about a gentleman who was put in a company that was basically a sort of sustaining success challenge with a very strong team, a relatively small business, right? I refer to these as playgrounds, right? A place where you can learn safely, and you're not going to bump up against anything that's too hard too soon.